Hey, everybody. Hey, y'all. So there's something to be said for being the first person who has to go on stage after lunch, right? Everyone's a little like, all right, a little down, a little this. So the first thing I'm going to ask of all of you is I'm a God girl, right? And so I'm in church every Sunday, and my pastor is like super insecure. He's the type where if you are not nodding back to him, if you are not saying like, yes, preach, some sort of interaction, he will leave. He will be like, y'all don't want Jesus today. And like walk away. So I'm going to need that energy very much from you, not just so that you wake up, but so that I feel good, okay? It's my first time back on stage in 4 months. Thank you, thank you. Oh, y'all don't want this today. All right, thank you. Some of you are hard sells. Some of you are like, I am not impressed. So it's my first time back on stage because I just had a baby 4 months ago. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My fourth baby. I know. Ooh. Judgment? I'm single-handedly ensuring our race that we continue. And look at y'all. I mean, it's hurtful. My mom was very happy. But today I'm going to be talking to you about the $0 startup, right? So first, let's just kind of get into who I am, what I do, all that jazz. But know that I want to keep it conversational in a way, so if you have questions, things of that sort, I'm going to give you a little space at the end to be able to do that. I want to make sure, just like Encore and Nathan and all the people who've been here, that everything is very actionable, right? It's like when you, I don't know how many of you have kids, but you get phantom cries where you're like in the shower and you're like that was definitely one of those moments. I was like, is it a sneeze, is it a cough? Like, did she follow me? Like, what happened? So, all right, so let's just dive in. So I know a lot of you are like, who is this girl? Like, she's the only black girl here. She's got amazing eyebrows. Like, who is she, right? So first things first, here you go. I put a lot of words on this slide, but I quit my job and I did it live online in front of 10,000 people. And that was 15 years ago. I was working, I think like a lot of you, at the time in business development for one of the large healthcare insurers. And I scaled that business from 2 million to 200 million before I left. And I got tired of making money for other people. How many of you relate? Right? And then, so I decided to just burn that bridge down, right? Like, how else make sure that you don't go back, right? Just go online, be like, I hate this place, I'm out. And it worked. I quit and I opened up my own consultancy. I have 3 daughters that I adopted. I adopted them 10 years ago, and now they're 26, 23, and 13. My daughter had stage 4 cancer, but she's fine now. The reason I bring that up and why it's relevant is if I had not quit my job, I would not have had the funds to be able to pay for it. So we'll get into all of that, but there's a bigger purpose behind the work that we do, and that was one of them. I had my own TV show on USA Network, and just to let you know, the reason I give you the variety is because I don't believe that entrepreneurship is linear. A lot of people here are talking about their software company that they founded, or they're talking about the product that they built. Matt, hi, I didn't know you'd be here. Oh my gosh, that's Matt. You guys should all say hi to him later. He knows everything. So, I also have a podcast. You should subscribe to it because I get paid in ads, and I told you I have 4 kids. Don't be selfish. I am a New York Times bestseller. That was for my memoir. Also good. You should buy it. My publisher tells me to say that. I have an NAACP Image Award nomination as well as an Emmy nomination. Blah, blah, blah. She's fancy. Pay attention to me. I know what I'm talking about. Okay? But I can't work a slide thing. I'm also a first-generation immigrant. So I say that because I think it's really, how many of you relate to first generation, or you have parents or anything like that? Raise your hand. Okay, great, great, great. Anybody up there? Good, perfect. So the reason why that's important is, one, right now that my parents are wildly disappointed, right? Like, what am I doing on this stage? My parents are from Ghana, West Africa, and sure enough, they're like, my daughter, you could have been a doctor. You could have been a lawyer. You could have been an engineer. You all know what I'm talking about, right? That's what I'm supposed to be doing. Literally, the other day, I thought having a baby would do it for my mom, right? I gave her the baby. I was like, you have stuff to do, lady. Like, what are you doing? She looked at me and she said, it's not too late to go to medical school. I'm like, I literally make millions of dollars and like, what are you talking about? But you need a plan in case it doesn't work. Okay. So, first generation immigrant born in DC. I went to Hopkins, did all that stuff, got my licenses, worked for Morgan Stanley, did all that stuff. Oh, woo, really? That's the woo? Because you're here, right? So, no, I did that. I was on Wheel of Fortune. If some of you are like, hey, I know her from somewhere, right? I was on Wheel of Fortune, won a trip to Iceland. Yes, yes. You guys remember that? No? Okay, and then just to give you value up front, a great skincare regimen and well-groomed eyebrows will help you with everything. So don't act like I didn't do anything for you, okay? You're coming here getting all these tips, all this software stuff. This is all you need to know. So let's get into it. Now, I built my very first business, a consultancy, and I did that with no investors, no loans, and no debt. And I scaled it to $1 million within 4 months. I know all of you are like, but Nicole, how, why? Like, OnlyFans? Like, no. Please, please, please. Not yet, okay? It hasn't gotten that bad yet, okay? But we see what the economy is doing, okay? You got to save something for later, right? No, realistically, I did this, and I'm going to tell you exactly how, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. And part of it was because I had to, right? Part of it was because I had to. Let's just be honest. I am a black woman, believe it or not. I don't know if you could, black woman, and, getting an investor is hard. It's difficult, to get loans with favorable terms sometimes. And I'm not saying these things as excuses, they're realities. No one's coming to save me, right? So what am I going to do to make sure that I change my future? And what I knew was that I wanted to make sure that I was home and available for my babies. I wanted to make sure that I didn't have the same path that my father, who was a cab driver for 40 years, and my mom, who was a secretary at a boating insurance company, the life that they were living. I knew that I wanted to make sure I had an imprint here in America after they worked so hard to get here that would last for a lifetime. And so that meant that I had to do the work. But I also knew that the work would be difficult to do without cash. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what you need to know. Now, Encore told me that a lot of you here, who's my friend, I've known Encore since Teachable had one cubicle, right? And I'm excited because he told me that a lot of you are startups, where you're saying, hey, I'm just getting out there. A lot of you are entrepreneurs on the side or solopreneurs. So this is for that, right? I think a lot of times you come to these events and you talk to people who are very aspirational, or they've done things like 9-figure exits, and that can feel very far away. And even if you want it for your heart, we have to start with where we are. So that's what I want to do for you today. Now, why does this matter? One of the things that I am super proud of is that I know how to be poor. I know how to be poor, meaning whatever the economy is doing, I'm not worried. Whatever's going on in my business, if I have to make adjustments, if I need to lay people off, if I need to, scale back on products, if I have to adjust, I can. I am very proud that I know how to be poor and adjust so that I can always make money. When you know how to build a business starting from zero, you are not reliant on ridiculous overhead and expenses in order to make sure that you can be here tomorrow. One of the little stories that I have that goes along with that is, I remember when I first got into this space, I never told you what I did. So when I quit my job, I hired myself. I hired myself as a consultant. My background was in business development and product development. I was just developing products for major corporations. So I switched my clientele, but I kept doing the same work. This is a very simple place that most people can start. A lot of us feel like whenever we have to start a business, it needs to be wildly new, totally innovative, and that we need to get money to go into it. It's always great. You hear about, all the guys here who were able to do that, but you can also take the skills that you have right now and take and leverage that to generate revenue as your first starting point until you get into the next thing. So I was a consultant, and I continued to consult, but for a different demographic. Now, when I opened up my consultancy, I was helping everyday entrepreneurs, people just like you, build out their business by leveraging corporate strategies. Super easy. I mean, all of you work with someone that probably shouldn't be there, right? Every day that you're picking up the slack for them, every day you're sitting in the office and you're like, how is this place still working, right? Just quit, do it for yourself, help other people, make lots of money. That's what I did. And it was pretty easy. Once I started sharing what I was doing online, once I started talking to people about it, once I started pitching people individually, I was able to get my clientele up so quickly that I had to diversify my products to be able to serve people. But that being said, I did all of this without leveraging Facebook ads. I did all of this without leveraging funnels. I did all of this without leveraging any fancy pants tools, partly because I'm an old lady. Believe it or not, Botox does amazing things. I know some of you are looking at me right now like, what? How is that possible? First, black doesn't crack, Asian doesn't raisin, right? So that's the first part, 2, when you have teenagers, you need to get Botox because they do crazy things and you don't want to react. So you have to just be like, it helps, right? That's the second reason. But also because, I just was not trying to navigate all of the tools. What I did know, old school style, was can I put on sneakers, walk down Main Street, pitch every single place, and get myself some clients? If you know how to do that, you are always in business. I asked Andrew and Encore how they got all of you guys in this room. I said, what did it take? What did you do? Did you have to run a ton of Facebook ads? What did your overhead spend look like? And they were like, no, we just kind of asked. We just kind of reached out to people. We just kind of did some posts. We just kind of hit up our email list. And they were able to fill a room with people. I think this is becoming an increasingly lost art, where we're always looking for this hack, this quick fix to try to fill a room with tons of people, when we forget that if you can just get 30 people there, you've got enough to make $1 million. It's just about the product that you're selling them. Now, is this making sense to y'all? Oh, there it is. Thank you. Thank you. Please, thank you. In the front. Somebody saved. I'll see you later. All right. So how do you do it, right? How do you do it, Nicole? How are you actually doing? What are the actual steps? We'll get practical. The first one is check your ego. Check your ego. When I tell you, one of the number one things that's shocking to me is how quickly people are trying to get to the place where they don't have to do the work. So they'll say to themselves, oh, someone gave me a woo in the back. You know what I'm talking about? Where people will literally say, oh yeah, well, I'm building this up, but I'm just tired of the grind and I don't want to have to get on calls and I have 500 Zooms and all these other, what do you think it is to be a business owner? You're going to have to do something, right? You have to have the humility to know how to do something. You should know how to run your own tools. Now, granted, delegation is important, having your team is important, but I want to tell you how I started. When I first started my business, I had an HTC incredible cell phone, right? Some of y'all are like, I remember that, right? She is dating herself, right? Aged. And I used that to take photos. There wasn't even live streaming. I used that to blog. I had a Tumblr at the time. I go back to Zanga, though, for those of you who really remember Zanga. And I was using that to start my business and pitch and send emails. And I said, I am not going to buy anything until I make the money to do it. So I started there, opened up my little cute business bank account with my first $25. It was a local community bank. Walked down there and I said, okay, I'm a business. Here's my EIN. Here you go. Once I had made $250, I went out and I bought my first laptop for my business. And it was a Google Chromebook when they first got started. So I had one of the very first Chromebooks. Then from that Chromebook, I made my first $1,000. And then I went on and I bought myself a MacBook. Are you guys detecting a pattern here? I spent what I had and I added to working capital as I went. And I made sure that I wasn't sitting here working and living above my means. And I wasn't sitting here worried about taking pictures on Lamborghinis, in Vegas, because that'll really be the flex that gets me all the clients, right? A lot of people are so focused on looking a certain degree of fancy online and they want to look like a business, but they're not worried about actually having a business. And I never worry about things like downsizing because I know how to send my own emails. I don't worry about whether or not AI is going to help me because I know how to write an email. I can do my own copy. I don't worry about having my social media team be able to manage everything because I can answer my own DMs. Check your ego. There is a lot of pride in entrepreneurship when you know how to do stuff, and there's also security when you know how to do the work. And a lot of times we worry because we say to ourselves, I need to get all these tools. I have to buy all the things. No, you don't. You can get started where you are with what you've got. And if you know that, then you are less hesitant to get out there and do what you have to do. Next, data drives decisions. Look, get your feelings up out of it, okay? What's the numbers look like? I say to all my clients when they come in, I always give them 2 disclaimers. One, that first and foremost, I'm going to talk about money. Because that's how we're all measured. A lot of people get weird about it. They're like, no, this is my purpose business. This is my passion product. I love it so much. This is just the most important thing to me. And I just, I'll spend whatever. I'll do whatever. I'll work whatever. Look, money gives you options. I love money. Anybody who ever tells you, oh yeah, no, look, thank you in the front. I love money. Yes, y'all must hate money. What, do you like being broke? Like, what is even happening? No, like, I love money. I do. And I like it because I grew up really poor. I remember the lights being cut off. I remember sleeping on a couch till I was 12. I can tell you being rich is better. Like, it feels better. I can do more things. I can send my kids to private school, and it's amazing because I worked hard for it. I earned every single dollar I have. And I also know that there's nothing I've done that you can't do either. So yeah, I like having options. There are a lot of people who are really horrible, terrible, bad people with a ton of money that are not hesitant to do terrible things with that money. Why shouldn't I work hard to get my share so I can advance good? And I think the same thing applies to you, right? The same thing applies to you. So I encourage you to get out there and get money so that you can do good things with it, right? But what that means is when you are in your business, you're going to have to look at your numbers and mind your margins. You aren't able to pay people too much. There are some jobs you're going to have to hold on for yourself. So one of the first things that I hired in my business was my admin, Peyton. Peyton is a stock photo. Her last name is Vesterfeld. She is blonde. She's been with my company for about 10 years. And I was Peyton for the first 3-4 years because I could not afford an admin. But I created an email address for her and people were able to interact with her. I also had a manager because I've done TV shows and I was pitching speaking gigs. My manager, his name was Daniel Salinas. I was also Daniel. Also, sometimes he had to roll things up to me, just to make, Nicole's a tough cookie. I'll have to see if I can loop her in on this call. I couldn't afford a team. It didn't make sense for the money, but I had the hours, I had the elbow grease, and I had the work ethic. So my very first team was a team of 5, and I was all 5. It worked, though. It worked, and it was Daniel who was able to secure better deals because he was able to negotiate as a white male and get deals and offers that I wasn't able to get myself. And that's the truth of it. If you're a marginalized woman, like, that is a real thing. People will lock it down for Daniel, but they wouldn't lock it down for me. But that was okay because I surely rolled up in there and I surely cashed my check and it worked for me. And then once I kept my numbers really low, I was able to stack at my first 5 years in business before I started like buying buildings, investing, things like that. I was pulling in, I think it was 96%. In terms of how much revenue we were keeping in our business. It cost us next to nothing. All of our products were digital. We paid for some software. We had Teachable. We had ConvertKit before it became Kit. But that was it. Everything else, to the point where my accountant actually said to me, you need to pay yourself more. And I was like, I don't need more. You know what I mean? I was driving a Honda, a Pilot that had 90,000 miles on it. I shopped at Target, still do. I thrifted for the kids. It's just... I don't know where we've gone as a society where it's all about sort of that online flex, but I can really tell you the truth is every single person I know that has had success on Core, Nathan, they're humble, real people that are using the numbers to determine what they're doing every single day in their business. Now, I want to tell you about a strategy that I use every single year around data that's really powerful for me. From the very beginning, I pick something that I call my keystone number. Now, my keystone number is a singular number that is going to be my driver every single day in my business to create action around it. Usually it's sales related. So your keystone number looks like, if you're saying to yourself, I need to make sure that I have 5 sales today so that I can hit $1 million by the end of the year. You just do the math, reverse engineer it. Have you done anything to sell today? So I have clients that'll come into me and say like, Nicole, like, we're just so worried about money and all this stuff, but you get paid off the work you did 3 months ago. So for some of you who are still working your 9-to-5 jobs and you're saying to yourself, I'm not seeing the growth in the thing that I want to actually prosper. Well, how much time are you putting in there? How much time are you actually giving to it? When was the last time you told someone about your product? When was the last time you sold? Because that data will tell you whether or not it's effective. We can talk about the hacks, the workarounds, the investors, being a founder. We can talk about all those things all day, but at the end of the day, if you are not willing to show up in your own business and sell and know what that number adds up to and spend less than you're making, your business isn't gonna thrive. It feels weird to get on this stage and say that, but when I tell you there's so much contradictory information on the internet around hacks, around strategies, around all of that, and I can tell you I'm still here 15 years later in business, with a business that does multi-millions, that has next to no overhead, I can make $1 million in 24 hours with 30 people in the room selling my product. People that I just invited individually and that I close in that room, which means that I can stay in business, that I can be open. And it means I can be with my family. And it means that I can support causes that matter to me. And it's all because I understand on a simple scale the numbers that I need to hit, and I'm willing to do the work to get there. And I only come on here because you're going to get a lot of conversation around every other thing, around all the tools, around the strategy. It's all valid, but let those things be an enhancement to what you're already doing every single day. If there's one thing that you can build immediately when you leave here, it is your skill set around knowing what your numbers are, getting that accountant, getting that bookkeeper, using tools like QuickBooks. Hell, put it on an Excel spreadsheet if you have to. But just paying attention to what you're doing, what's coming in and what's going out, and putting your efforts in and pouring fire on what's making you more sales. It's so easy. I don't know about y'all, but I go into some of these conferences. I live in LA, and everyone's just like on that, like that energy where you stand next to them and they're just like, yeah, so like, what are you investing in right now? Okay, cool. Okay, great. And it's just like, that's all good and great, but it's like, where are you really spending your time in your business? What's getting you the most revenue? Like, what are the real conversations? So it's my hope, there's still time this afternoon, that if you kind of came in with that energy, that you shake it off and you have real conversation about what's going to make you money, and make sure that the next time I see you next year at the event, you're able to say to me, Nicole, I got down to basics and we pulled in an extra $100,000. We pulled in an extra $1 million. It's actually doable. I hope that next time I see you, I hear about your quit day. That you're able to say, look, I no longer work at this thing because in the year that we left, I said I need to make $50,000. I need to make another this is New York, what am I talking about? I made $250,000, right? And I was able to quit my job, and I'm super excited about it because when I left, I said, every single day I've got to sell. I've got to tell someone. I've got to pick up the phone. I've got to send one email, which brings us to this thing. You can't automate relationships. I have been screaming, this is my third final point, so write it down because they said they need time back. We're running over. Listen, you cannot automate relationships. I am hollering this from every stage. Why? Because AI is taking over, and that's a good thing. I am not knocking AI. I am excited about it. I am an investor. I am thrilled about the gaps that it can stand in and the opportunities it can afford. But I want to let you know that at the end of the day, if you are too scared to ask for what you want, you will always be behind. Do you hear me? If you are too scared to ask for what you want, you will always be behind. Do you hear me? Okay, perfect, good. Oh, wait, I heard that they're filming this session. I need to get some B-roll. B-roll is the thing that you do in LA where they take the footage and they use it and they put it onto like ads and stuff. All right, hold on a sec. I need you guys to act like I'm really funny. I'll give you a countdown. Here's what I need you to do. Just be like this. All right, AV, are you guys ready to capture this? All right, perfect. You ready? On the count of 3, I just need to be like, just give me like a really good laugh. They're going to mute it. It won't even matter what it sounds like, but it'll look like I'm hilarious, all right? It just keeps me booked. Feed the kids, right? 1, 2, 3. Oh, more. I'm serious, more. Head back. Yes, somebody point. Like this, like I said something valid. Yes, right, yes, right? And then, wait, I need to run. Right, yes, right? Oh my gosh. You're right. All right, good. Did we get that? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm not kidding. You guys are going to see this later and be like, that girl's brilliant, right? That's called marketing. Just to let you know, full lesson. So all that being said, the best ROI is in your big ask. The next thing is I never come to any of these events without having clear-cut ask. I spend my time building what I call my 5-point dossier, where I like to know everything about all the speakers that are there, that I like to know who's going to be in the room and what's the demographic. I will even email the event coordinators and say, based on your attendee structure, who's coming to your event? Are they other entrepreneurs? Are there people in the banking field? Who is coming to the event? And then I prepare myself to say, what are the asks? And I ask them. People will come up to me and say, Nicole, I just really enjoyed your talk. It was so great, and I just wanted to know, like, how'd you get started with all this? And I'm like, well, look, I'm in LA. I have an office there. If you're in town, just hit me up, stop by. You'd be surprised. let me tell you a tiny story. And it's funny because I was going to tell you, but I was going to tell this story because I thought Nathan would be here. I don't know if Nathan Barry's here right still, but here's the story. So the founder of ConvertKit. So I was flying out to the very first ConvertKit conference. They were doing an event. It was in Boise, Idaho. And I was super excited about it because I was going to speak, and I've known Nathan forever. And so I, at the time, was living in Maryland, right outside of Baltimore, and I get on the plane, and on the plane that morning, I'm seated next to the CEO of Samcart, which is like a checkout tool if you're familiar with it. His name is Brian Moran, and Brian is the opposite of me. He is quiet. He is introverted. I don't know how much he likes people. He likes work, but he's very like into his own thing, you know. Sweetest, kindest man, most generous, best product ever. I'm a big fan of Samcart, but I'm seated next to him. And so, of course, me being me, you know, I turn over and I'm like, hi, I'm Nicole. We are going to be seat buddies. Now, I want to let you know I am a talker, but we don't have to be because consent, okay? But just throwing that out there to let you know, if you want to chat it up, we can. But if not, I'm just going to do my thing. And he looks at me like this. He was not here. It was also a 6 a.m. flight. Like, I don't know. I was like, So he looks over, but then he smiles, and he's kind of like, you're going to that conference, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm a speaker. And he was like, okay. He was like, yeah, me too. I'm Brian, whatever. Long story long, it turns out that we go to the same church. I just sit in the balcony. He sits in the front row. That should tell you a little bit about our personalities. His company was like down the street from mine, So at the time I was working out of my house, and I was like, yeah, like I could really use some office space. He was like, well, come to the office anytime. We've got like, extra offices. You can use them to work. It'd be great. I was like, thank you. And he was like, and you're not using Samcart? And I was like, no, Samcart was fairly new. This was years ago. And he told me about it. And I was like, I'll sign up right now. I signed up, and he got a ding on his phone real time, because anytime someone who brings in annual revenue over $1 million, it goes right to him as the CEO. And so he gets a ding, and he's like, you signed up right now. I was like, I did sign up. Congrats on the sale, And he's just like, you are strange, And from that same seat, he told me he had a baby on the way, so I sent a gift to his house, right away from that seat. And I built a relationship, and, we're still friends to this day. I ended up adopting his dog, and had his dog Tanner for maybe 6 years after that, when they needed to rehome him. And we went to church together, everything. And that was the relationship we built. And I also made a ton of money as one of the top affiliates for Samcart. And we've also done joint partnerships, and he's also helped me with some of my clienteles, and he appears in my membership. I have a membership group that does over $1 million a year, and he's appeared in that group. And it's just been a beautiful working relationship. And that all happened because I leaned over at 6 a.m. in first class and said, hey, my name's Nicole. And I interacted honestly and authentically. And 90% of our interaction has not been about business. It's just been regular. Even for Encore, he was doing the event, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I have to come to New York to see some clients. I should speak at your thing. And he was like, you would speak at my thing? And I said, of course. I was like, just come over. I was no problem. I've known Encore since the beginning. When my book came out, he was like, hey, how can I help support? That's exactly how we did it. When we landed in Boise, do you guys know who Seth Godin is? I feel like some people do and some people don't. You do? Okay, some people know. Okay, I feel like I'm in the right room where you guys would know who he is, right? So for those of you who don't know, Seth Godin is like, I know him as Jay-Z's favorite marketer. He's one of my friends. And I met Seth through Nathan. Also, this event was very influential to my life. And I talk about it in my book. If you buy the book, you can read all the details. But when we get to Boise and we land, we're at the event, and there's a speaker's dinner. So for those of you who aren't speakers or want to be speakers, one, you should ask to speak at this event next time. If any of you think that you have something to offer, you want to do it, just ask. You see what I'm saying? Ask. So I was there for the speaker dinner, and they do a dinner the night before, and that's like kind of how everyone gets to know each other. And it's actually one of the biggest advantages of doing events like this, is you get to meet other people that you may not have previously interacted with. So we're at the speaker, we're getting ready to head down the speaker dinner. I'm running late. I'm getting to the elevator. It dings open, and there's just like kind of short, bald guy with colorful glasses on, and he's in the elevator. And I walk in, and I didn't know him, right? Like, I'm one of those people who's very in this space, but like not of this space, So I go in, and I'm like, oh, hey, are you here for the event? And he's like, something like that. Yeah. And I said, oh, wow. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be on stage. I'm a keynote, so definitely make sure you don't miss it. I feel like you might get something that could help your business. I love that you're still, doing this sort of thing at your age. I think it's amazing. And he's just like, kind of laughing. And I was like, I have a question for you. So, and you can ask him this. This is what I said. I was like, I have a question for you. So, I know you're bald. When you wash your face, do you just stop like here, or do you go all the way back? And he never answered the question. I want to be clear. So if there's anyone here who's bald, I'm still seeking the answer. But I literally was like, do you just do like your whole, or do you just kind of, is there an imaginary line of demarcation? Like, what do you do? And he's burst out laughing. And he's like, what? Because I guess of all the things people would ask, if you're going to be trapped in an elevator, and he says to me, he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, oh, it's fine, whatever, And I was like, this guy's being weird, but hopefully he'll come to my keynote. And then we get to the elevator, it dings. I will never forget this visually, the entire crew of all the speakers, and Nathan knows, some people. So it was like all the speakers, and then Nathan was right in the front, and I'm coming out and I'm walking out, and Nathan goes, Seth! I hit him. And I'm like, you're Seth Godin? Why didn't you say anything? And he's like, I didn't have a chance. Needless to say, that was years ago, and me and Seth are really good friends. I visit him regularly whenever we're in town. He was one of the speakers on my book tour, and hosted my night, where during my tour stop. But it all happened. And honestly, I can't even tell you how many things I have had to ask him for guidance, for support. He helped me navigate a $10 million sale that I did, and it was all because I asked. Well, and I talked about his bald head, but that was it. So just understand that you're here in this room with an opportunity, and it is about that ask. And the ROI on asking and being bold and interacting and not being sluggish and keeping it authentic and not just coming in here with a flex about like, I did this and I'm that, but really just being honest and real with people, that ROI is so good. It doesn't cost you anything. I have talked myself into rooms, and you have the ability to do it. Now, if you're introverted, and you're saying to yourself, just coming to this conference terrified me, then just go up and give someone a compliment. It opens the door, and you will be fine. You can come to me all day. I'll chat with you all day. Start with a compliment. So my book is called Nothing is Missing. And this is a phrase that's really important to me, and I want to leave you with. And it's a phrase that changed my life. I spent the past 5 years, I went through like a pretty bad divorce, and after working really, really hard, I found myself really burnt out. I was dealing with facial paralysis. I had psoriasis. These are all things that were strictly due to being burnt out. I ended up getting a bout of shingles. I mean, just literally my body was breaking down. My blood pressure at one point was 173 over 153. So I was in stroke range, and essentially my doctor said, if you don't stop working at the rate and the speed that you are, and make some adjustments, that you might not make it. And I have too many babies to not make it. So, I said to myself, what does it look like then? If I were to get rid of everything and only have to build with what's in front of me, what would it look like if I built a life like nothing was missing? And built a business like nothing was missing? And that's what I want to leave with you, because this is actually a business strategy. This is a numbers thing. If you said today, I could not spend $1 more on one more product, I cannot buy one more book, I cannot get one more coaching session, I cannot afford one more thing, what would you do? What would you do to still bring in revenue? What would you do to make sure that your business was still here tomorrow? If you approach your business that way, I'm telling you, you're going to be here for 10 years. You're going to be here for 20 years. You're going to be super impactful. You're going to be able to ride out whatever comes, because you'll have everything you need in front of you all the time. Now, I want to say, and this is an offer, I hope everyone has their phone, and it's a free offer. I don't do free. If you guys Google me, you'll see, like, I don't do free. Like, I'm allergic to it. It like gives me like hives. I do it for churches, children, and charity, but that's it. So this is a big deal. So if you scan this, also, I just want to let you know, if you don't pick up your phone and scan it, like, I see you, right? Like, I literally can see, like, just pick it up and at least fake like you're scanning it for my self-esteem, Hold your phone up for 2 seconds, right? But basically, here's what I'm offering. So And I'm only doing this because it's Encore and I've never done it anywhere else, and there is no gotcha, right? Like, I'm super transparent, there's no gotcha. What it is I'm going to host a private Q&A. I have 2 different days. You guys can see it. You can pick one. It's a 1-hour Q&A where my consulting is stupid expensive, right? People pay me a good amount of multi-5 figures to come in for 4 hours in my Beverly Hills office. If you want to come to that call and ask me anything, Nicole, how did you produce your own TV show? Nicole, how did you get signed by CAA? Nicole, how did you figure out your margins? Nicole, who do you use as your fractional CFO? Nicole, what did you do with whatever you want to ask me, I will make myself available for 1 hour to help you with whatever you need. Nicole, do you know an introduction for such and such? Nicole, you were one of the investors on the show Elevator Pitch, and you bought these companies. How are they doing? How do you feel about it? And could this be something I can do? The one thing I ask is, do not come to there and pitch me anything. I am the hardest person in the world to sell, and chances are you'll just get feedback on how your pitch could be better, or I'll just move on. So don't come there just asking for a pitch, but you can come there and ask with an ask. How's that sound? Pretty good? Yeah? All right. So I hope I get to see a lot of you there. And thank you so much for listening. And I'll be here. If you have questions, I'll be around. Just grab me and ask. Thank you so much. Sorry, clap more and louder for the B-roll, please. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.